This tank is the Sheridan. This is an American Tier 10 light tank. The map is Prokhorovka. I am going to get 5,200 spotting damage in this game. So if you're curious about this tank, about the Sheridan, is it a good tank? To be honest, I don't like playing it. I would rather play the T-49. Once I complete the mission for the LT-15 for the Object 260, I might dump this tank and go back to playing the T-49 as my top tier tank. This tank is a little bit difficult to drive. And by being difficult to drive, it's just not fun to play. It's a little clunky and clumsy. So you can see I approached this area. It looks like I'm going to make it without being spotted. Looking for a good position. Going to check my coverage to make sure that I'm not exposed. We've spotted one tank. Now there is a risk that I could still be spotted because obviously tanks can get close to me. There are a lot of tanks in the midfield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Plus 8, 9, 10, 11. That means there's 4 tanks that are unspotted in this game. So I don't expect a lot of them to be on this side of the map. I've already got 910 spotting damage. You'll notice that tank, the Object 260, is beyond my spotting range, so I decided to advance to the next bush, which gives me better coverage to that red line. And the Jagdpanzer was spotted quickly and already has taken damage. But you got to be careful with advancing because you can easily... How do you do that? Okay. You could easily be spotted by tanks like this T-62. So I have to be careful about how I advance. That Jagdpanzer is making a very dumb move. He's unaware of what's going on in the game, and he put himself out in the open. Now the key, as long as someone is spotted, just sit here and wait for him to be taken out of the game. Now, because the T-62A is very close to me, along with the Kranwagen, I have to stay in this position. Very risky for me to move. And I could still be spotted because the back of my tank is sticking out of the bush a little bit. I'm going to show you my front coverage. My rear looks pretty safe. It's probably going to be okay. I got 3,700 spotting damage. The Object 268 just took a hit for 745. I just got 1,000 spotting damage on their Object 268. So somebody finally spotted me and I was taken out of the game. Now, what was funny, when I got spotted, my hands jumped to the keyboard. I as if I was actually playing in the game, and I thought, oh my god, I got to do something. Okay, so that's 4,800 spotting damage in the after game. Results was 5,200 spotting damage. And the score is 0-3. It's still early in the game. Now, it's early in the game, and you're going to ask yourself, is 5,200 spotting damage worth playing the game, especially considering that I died relatively early in the game? And the answer is yes, because if I were firing my gun, to get 6,000 combined damage is really difficult using your gun alone. So having that kind of spotting damage is definitely worth it. You're definitely doing something for your team to get numbers like that. This tank is the Sheridan. This is an American Tier 10 light tank. The map is Karelia. I am going to get 2 kills. I'm going to do 3,600 damage. It's an assault defend game. I'm on the assaulting team. I like to snipe from the midfield, and the reason why is because there's a lot of great cover. There's a lot of solid rocks to hide behind. There's a lot of bushes to hide behind. There's a lot of easy targets to go after. Because of the fact that I'm a light tank, I might not fire my gun. Because obviously I don't want to get spotted. I'm lightly armored. If I get spotted, I'm going to take a lot of damage very quickly. So I headed straight to the solid cover as soon as I fired my gun. Also, my gun is a low penetrating gun, which means that it's unlikely to penetrate the armor of a lot of these tanks. I do have the Coca-Cola consumable, and I have the Binox, and I'm also running the coated optic directive to increase my viewing ability. Notice that I slowly advance closer and closer to the enemy. I'm not going in a rush. As long as we can spot somebody, we're going to keep them spotted. As soon as I fire, I'm going to head to solid cover just in case I was spotted. Now you can see that everyone is at the edges of my spotting range. So everyone's pretty far from me. They're unlikely to spot me at this point. I didn't see any targets that I'd be able to shoot at. You'll notice that the bat chat is in the center of the map, so I'm taking up a different position. There's no reason for us to both take the same position. It's unfortunate that I was spotted here. It's going to severely limit my ability to sneak up on the enemy. Wasn't able to do any damage. I obviously must have missed that tank. It's going to be very difficult for me to damage these tanks, as I explained before. So that tank is coming after me. I got to get out of here. When you are running away, you want to get as many obstacles between you and the enemy tank as possible. So that's why I took that sharp right turn. And I'm just as happy sitting here waiting for my allies to come save me. So we did clean up on this flank. The Centurion is now going to have to deal with all of my allies that are going to converge on this area. So because the bat chat went in, I'm going to try and help my ally. I'm going to try and get behind the Centurion to put in a kill shot. Unfortunately, what happened, I was using the auto-aim, and because my ally killed the Centurion, it released the auto-aim at the exact moment, so my shot went wild, and it hit my ally. It's one of the disadvantages of using the auto-aim. At the time, obviously, I didn't know what caused my shot to go wild, but I theorized that the reason why was because someone must have killed the Centurion. Score is 6-5. I've got 1,200 damage and 1,100 spotting damage. Now you'll notice this is what's going to make the game very easy. Most of the enemy tanks are on one side in one area, so I can make multiple different approaches. I just have to keep them spotted. My allies will do the rest. That was 752 damage. I'm going to count to 10. So by counting to 10, I will become unspotted, and then I will go and I will peek again. But only enough to spot those enemy tanks. I won't be able to damage any of those tanks. Or if I do damage the tanks, I'll only be able to do a little bit of damage. So I could have gone for a rear shot on that Object 704. I am obviously looking for that, for one of these SPGs. When you are firing at an enemy tank, there is something called a reticle. The bloom on your targeting reticle, your shell is going to land within that circle, so you want your tank to be as covered by that circle as possible. That's why I had to wait a little bit before I fired on that SPG. So I did 633 damage against a Type 4 Heavy, which is quite surprising. And that's the game. The score is 15-6. I did 3,600 damage, 1,800 spotting damage, and 2 kills. This tank is a Sheridan. This is an American Tier 10 light tank, and the map is Cliff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some rear flanking, try to get behind enemy lines. The reason why you do this is because you want to hit them in the rear on their softer armor. You want to create some havoc. You want the enemy to turn their guns around so they're not pointed at your allies. They're pointing in the wrong direction, etc. So there's lots of different ways to do it. And there's the tactic, and there's the place and the time. And you have to watch the mini-map and have good situational awareness. It's too bad I missed that shot. I like to come over here and spot. It's easier to spot from the south. Right now I'm waiting, obviously, to reload. I like to spot and snipe and try and do some sniping damage. When you're a newer player, you just want to learn to do the spotting first. But once you get better and you know how to do the spotting, you want to add the sniping into the game. Oh, it's too bad I missed. In terms of the Sheridan, I'm not that happy with it as a tank. I prefer the German Tier 10 tank. I just got it. I don't remember what it's called, the Rheinmetall or something like that. I think it's a better tank to play. I've only played a few games in it, though. And with the Sheridan, as soon as I get my Object 260, I have to complete LT-15. As soon as I complete it, I'm going to get rid of this tank and play the T-49, which is a Tier 9 tank, or I just might not play in American light tanks anymore. Now, you notice that I was able to come up to this bush, and the enemy didn't spot me. And I'm looking at the mini-map, and it looked like I'd be able to make it, because the enemy tanks are either around the corner or behind a house or too far away. And being in this position is pretty powerful. I can spot that Leopard PTA all the way in the back. I could go after that M4A1. He's got 695 hit points. I got a gun that does like 750 damage. I might be able to take him out of the game. And what is this team going to do? Look, his gun is pointing away from me. So I took him out of the game. As soon as I get past this point, I've got bushes to cover me. And I just keep on driving around. And now I'm perfectly safe. I only had to get to where the IS-3 is, and I was safe from enemy fire, and right now I'm unspotted. So I just wanted to show you that maneuver, to show you that it is possible to go over through the middle and come around and hit the enemy when they least expect it. This tank is a Sheridan. This is an American Tier 10 light tank. The map is Karelia. I'm going to show you a spotting position. This is going to give you a general idea of just how far you can go in this game without being spotted. I'm going to get really close to the enemy territory. So keep an eye on the mini-map. I usually take this route. I take this exact same route every time because it's the safest route. If you spot anybody, you can stop whenever you want. You'll notice that I started spotting people. And because I spotted people, I decided to stop so I can check them out to see if they're a threat to me. For example, if they're light tanks and I don't want to get spotted, I would probably stay in the bush. Now, this is somewhat close. You can see that I've gone pretty deep into enemy territory. I'm going to easily spot any of the traffic for the enemy tanks that move across the edge of the border. Now, one of the issues we have to deal with is we've got enemy tanks that are going to be parking right over here, for example, behind this rock structure, and I can't spot them from this position very easily. Over time, I will spot those tanks, but you really want to spot them as soon as possible. One of the issues that you're going to notice in this game is that most of my team went to the southeast, so I don't have snipers on my team backing me up other than the T-54 lightweight. The grill is too far away to snipe any enemy tanks that I spot. You'll notice that I'm advancing to a new position, going from bush to bush, letting the binocs turn on. You'll see that when the binocs came on, the FV-4005 was spotted. He's going to take a lot of damage. It's not going to happen immediately, but over the course of the game, he's going to take a lot of damage. There it is. Now, at this point, I was thinking, can I respot him? But if you look at the minimap, you're going to notice that the enemy light tanks are starting to go after our base. You see I'm turning around to see if I could get a shot on those tanks. So at this point, I'm thinking about maybe retreating back to base. We just lost our SPG, and my team is going to need me spotting back at the base. So this is going to be about the end of the usefulness of this position. Oh, I wish I could have nailed him. I had a chance on him. And there we go. We lost the T-54 lightweight. So as you can see that the game has changed. I just wanted to use this video to show this particular spotting position. So let's move on to the next video. This tank is the Sheridan. This is an American Tier 10 light tank. The map is Murovanka. We are going to see some hit and run tactics in this game. Basically, the tactic that I'm going to use is I'm going to wait for the enemy heavy tanks to line up on the hill. When they're on the other side of the hill, they tend to have their frontal armor pointed in a certain direction. They line it up with the hill, and they point their gun in a certain direction. And by aligning themselves on the mini-map along that hill, it's very easy to predict which way their gun is pointing, where the rear of their tank is, etc. So it's very easy to do a hit and run, hit them in the rear with a derp gun that does a lot of damage. So my target is going to be either the VK-4502 or the M103, and also the M41 Bulldog. We're going to pursue him until he's out of the game. It's sad that I didn't knock him out of the game. I want to keep my frontal armor pointing towards him because it's my strongest armor and I have a long reload. Keep on ramming him. Okay, so he's out of the game. Now you see that the M103 is vulnerable right now. He might be dead by the time I get there. So now we got this VK-4502. It's very easy to predict that his gun is probably pointing towards the right. The rear of his tank is probably pointing towards the left. And there it is, confirmed. So we're going to get on that rear. Did 673 damage on that VK. And then I headed right to the houses to protect me from any incoming fire. We're not going to get any more hit and run shots like that because the enemy is going to be in a field position. So let's move on to the next video. This tank is the Sheridan. The map is Sand River. You see that there's an object 268-4. It looks very vulnerable, so I'm going to try to blast him in the rear. So I was able to do 727 damage on the rear of that tank. So now I'm coming in with the Sheridan for a second run against the Object 268-4. I'm going to blast him, put him out of his misery. Okay, so I got to find another target. I'm going to go for the LTTB. Wow, 712 damage. And he hits me for 185.